Well, Bernard, this has really come out in the last few minutes. These images that you're seeing coming out on social media, huge crowds have gathered around the cathedral. And you can see not just smoke on those images coming through on social media, but also flames as well that appear to be coming through the roof, through the back end of Notre Dame Cathedral. We're hoping to get there in a couple of minutes' time to go and see for ourselves. But the pictures are looking pretty dramatic, clearly, because this is happening even as we speak. We don't know yet what was responsible for the fire, how this began, or how dangerous, how big it is or threatening to the structure itself. But clearly, for the time being, the crowds that are always pretty substantial around that part of Paris, being one of the most touristic parts of the French capital, are getting pretty big. And those images appear to be fairly dramatic for the time being. Again, we have no idea what is behind this fire, what caused it, how it began, but it does appear to be coming from inside the cathedral itself.
And when did you first get word of this? This is something that must be, here we have a photo where you can better see the facade of the cathedral. So this isn't a building that is in front of it. You can actually see the cathedral here. When did you first get word of this? And I can't even imagine what people in Paris are saying, the idea that this iconic building is aflame.
Absolutely iconic. I think that's the right word, Bernard. This is right in the heart of Paris, in the heart of the very historic central part of Paris, on one of the islands that sit in the middle of the Seine, in the very middle of the French capital. It is, of course, world famous. This is what tourists come to see when they come to visit Paris, and it is clearly always surrounded by tourists, people milling around, and a lot of people visiting inside, even at this time of day. We're just coming up to the evening here in Paris, and it would have been very busy, full of tourists. We know for the time being what we can see from these images coming through on social media, and it really has just been a few minutes. This is happening. Word of this has just begun to spread in the last 4 or 5 minutes or so, and you can see those flames coming out of the cathedral. And when you look at it at different angles, you can see that it clearly seems to be coming from the cathedral itself. I'm getting close enough now to see the smoke coming out over the tops of the roofs here in Paris, and it is pretty substantial amounts of smoke. No word for the time being yet, because this is just happening on what might have been behind it. But clearly that smoke and the flames that have caused it seem to be coming from inside the cathedral. We're first going to try and get as close as we can to try and find out more about how structurally damaged potentially the building could be, and also, of course, Brianna, what caused such a massive fire and what allowed it to take hold as quickly as it appears to have done.
And the police there saying that the fire at Notre Dame is in progress. Avoid the area and facilitate the passage of emergency vehicles and intervention of the police. Because to be clear, Melissa, this is not at all under control, right? This is something at this point that they are in the process of responding to, let alone assessing.
That's right. This really has just become obviously a massive problem, and as I say, the crowds are going pretty big. Even from here, just slightly further away from Notre Dame Cathedral, they're crowding onto the bridges to get a sight of what is really this fairly spectacular amounts of smoke now coming out from the building. And to get it under control, one can imagine that it's going to take a lot of fire engines, a lot of water, a lot of manpower. So Paris is pretty congested at this time of day, especially around Notre Dame in the middle. Clearly, the police are hoping that people will allow them to get as close as they possibly can. But the amounts of smoke that I'm looking at are really pretty big. And you can see there on those images that have already begun coming through on social media that those flames appear to be, for the time being, quite out of control. It's going to take a lot of work to get them under control. And of course, these are flames, just to remind our viewers, Brenna, that are threatening, that seem to be engulfing the back part of one of France's most historic cathedrals, one of its most famous, one of its most ancient. Whatever has caused this, this is likely to prove to be a tragedy, a catastrophe for the structure itself. The flames, for the time being, nowhere near under control.